Hello and welcome back to another video. And yes, we are going to be doing some paper quilling today. If you've seen the title, you will know we are doing Halloween based quilling. I'm just going to go through quickly some basic shapes that you can make for Halloween. Obviously this isn't an exhaustive list, but you know, you can play around with the paper. If you go back and watch my basic shapes tutorial information video, which I will link below, you can play around with the shapes there, and the thing is you can mould these shapes however you want to. It's not rigid that they have to be those shapes. Those are just the basics that help you start, as you'll see from a couple of these bits that I'm going to be showing you now. Okay, so obviously Halloween, so I've gone with a black cat, a bat, a ghost and a pumpkin. But obviously think of different things like witches' hats and things like that. All would be possible with paper quilling. So what do I need? So I have got my trusty glue in its little holder. Obviously I've said before, and I'm saying obviously a lot, apologies, you don't need to have one of these. If you have some PVA glue, which is what's inside here, cocktail stick or something, really, even the end of a pencil to dab the glue onto the paper, that's fine. It will work just as well. I just find this quite easy, and they are reasonably cheap to get if you want to get one. I've got scissors, I've got my quilling board, just because it gives me a surface to work on. I have begun to get my quilling tool out. I've got a few in here. I'm going for this longer one, which is my go-to. You can get shorter versions of it as well. They've all got like a little slit in there. You can just see where my nail goes in. I've got a pair of tweezers that I'm not sure I'm going to need, but we shall see how we go. I've got my card blank, and then I've got my quilling papers that I will need. So I thought start with our little bat first of all, because he's quite a little simple thing to make. So what we need is our black quilling paper. I've said in previous videos where you can get this from. I go to someone on Etsy and get them from her. There are also Amazon, The Range, for the UK people. I assume in the US you've got places similar, but I don't know too much about that. So you'd have to Google it or use any other search engine of your choice. So I'm going to need at least 2 strips for this, mainly because I've got the wings there. So for this I need half strips, so basically just folding it in half. And then with my scissors cutting it. You can, if you want, use whole strips, or to make a smaller bat you can use quarter strips. It's up to you. I'm just going for the same size that I've made, and I used half strips for that. So we'll start with the body, because that is the simplest shape we have got. Obviously putting it through around the quilling tool. And you just slide it off, let it open out so you've got a loose coil there. And then you glue the coil closed when you can find the end. A small dot of glue is all that is required. And gently close it. Right, so the body of the bat is a teardrop shape. So what you have to do as you may have seen in previous videos, just squeeze it at the top and then you get that shape. So the back is obviously its upside down teardrop. Pop that there for a minute. Now our other shape is a bit more complicated, so we do the same. We make our loose coil again. We'll close it off as before. Just making sure it's stuck. And this is the difficult shape. So you've kind of got to squeeze and pinch at the end because you're trying to make these little ears. So you're pinching it up to squeeze those bits out. You're almost pinching them out. You can manoeuvre them a little bit to make them longer or shorter. So you kind of got that shape there. So I've pinched out these two sides here and pushed down a little bit in the middle. I'll show you again when I do the cat shape because it is the same shape for the cat's head as it is for the bat's head. It is a more complicated shape, and also I've made the rookie error of putting it where the join is. That's best off kind of down here somewhere normally. But that is our little bat's body and head. And then for the wings, you just need to cut off a small amount. It's up to you how big you do your wings. I'm going to go with that amount. I'll measure the same off of there. I think this is almost equivalent to an eighth of the strip, but it's not exact because I haven't measured it out exactly. And then I just fold these in half. And you can manoeuvre the strips as you like. You can always trim them if they feel too long. So you can see I've got a bit more of a curve on that. I probably will trim that off because it's a little bit long for my bat's body. And this one for some reason feels a lot shorter. Oh no, it is the same. I'm putting that little curl on the end just by pulling it with my fingers. It's so easy to... But you have to be gentle because the paper can tear. And that would be your basic body. Obviously, I am going to trim that a little bit. I think that needs to be a bit shorter. Yeah, that's better. And then to glue it down, that's on the back. Again, not a lot is needed. If you're putting them into a picture piece and you want to just make a mark where you want them first, because once you put the glue on, they stick really quickly and really easily, and you won't be able to move them. And for the body, you can either, for the wings even, you can either guide it with the glue onto the paper, or even just putting a thin amount along the edge of the paper, which is a little trickier, but gives you more chance to move where you want your wings. And obviously PVA will dry clear, so if it's bending back, and you don't want it to, just hold it briefly. Let the glue dry a little bit, and then it'll stay in place. As I said, none of it takes very long to dry because you're using such small amounts, but it's still quite, because it's all paper and card, it glues really well. And to the point that I'm almost stuck to it as well. And that's our bat. All in one bit. Okay, so while I've got the black out, I'm going to move on to our little cat here. So for the body of cat, I used the whole strip. And then I used another half for the head. So I'll measure that out now as well. Find my scissors. Right, so we've got our 2 stems. So first, the body. So because it's a whole strip, the coil when you come off the quilling till is a little bit more, it moves a lot more, so it's a bit harder to control, but if you can do the halves, you can do the wholes, it's fine. You'll manage, I'm sure. But you think you've got a lot of pent up pressure in that whole roll. So what I tend to do when I'm doing a whole one is use one of these circles as a guide and then slide it off into one of those circles so it can't go madly out. This one's not actually, but sometimes when you've got it, a big one, a whole strip, it really comes out. So having the circle to contain it keeps it to a reasonable size. But yeah, you can see it's a lot looser than when we use the half strips and the quarter strips. I'm just going to glue it closed. Just gentle pressure, and that rubbing movement just helps to get it down. Okay, so you've got your coil. I've bent it a little bit, and then you're just doing a teardrop shape again. So pinching it at the top, kind of pushes the main part of the curl down into the base of the teardrop. And that gives you your cat's body. If you let it be a little bit loose, if you want a kind of a more full out body like this, then you just need to let the coil be a bit looser when you seal it up. And now for the head, which is, like I said, it is the same as the bat's head. So I've got my half strip. Onto the quilling board. Glue the end on. Make sure it seals it up. Right, so I've put the join to the bottom this time, which is what you should do. And then, like I said, 2 thumbs at the base, and then kind of pinching up with your fingers, and then you can kind of press it down like that, just to make the ears. You can pinch a bit more, and then you've got that shape there. So pinching these bits out and pushing in there, you can push it together like that to make it a bit bigger, or down like that to make it wider. And that's your little cat's head and body. So I'm going to stick those on first. So obviously your teardrop's the other way up for the cat's body to what it is for the bat's body. Now I'm going to use part of the strip I use for the bat's wings, and I'm going to sort out a tail for my cat. So I want it a little bit longer than I'd need for it to be to the body, because what I'm going to do is curl the end of the tail using the quilling tool. And it's up to you how much you quill that. Sorry, I just dropped something, just fell on me while I'm filming this. My apologies. Okay, so that is the shape. And take the end. And this is quite a tight kind of curl. You can do it a bit looser, but you're not quilling the whole strip before you take your tool out. If you want it looser, you just can pull it back out a little bit. You can manoeuvre it around however you want, so that you'd have a curly tail, and then the rest of it will go underneath the cat. So to stick it down, put a little bit on there, onto the curl. You can either do it down the strip or on the paper, and then a little bit on the end there for where it's going to curl under the cat. And then you press the end down and then hold it as you want it to keep it in place, because it is curly, so it's going to fight you to go straight. And it's best done on a flat surface, so not on the quilling board as I'm doing it. And then just making sure you tuck that bit under the body down there, and you'll see it merges in quite nicely. If you have a bit of overhang, you can always trim it back, or just add a bit more glue and glue it up to the side of the cat there. But there you go. And obviously you can make it curlier by quilling it a bit more, get a longer piece of paper, do it a bit looser. It's entirely up to you. For the next bit, I'm going to go on to our ghost. So again, this is quite a simple piece, just 4 little pieces that we have to make. Moving to the white for this, obviously. Although I suppose you could have any colour ghost you want. And this is made up of a whole strip, a half strip and 2/4. So you only need 2 strips altogether. So I'm going to start with the body of our ghost. So our big loose coil first of all, with the whole strip. piece it into one of the circles. That's quite... You can loosen it out further if you want to. For some reason this one's very attached to itself already. Stick the end, like as we've been doing all along. Because it's white, you probably won't see the glue on this. But yeah, sticking it down. A little bit of pressure. So we've got our basic coil. And for the ghost body, this is like a teardrop shape, but with a little bit of a twist on it. So we make our teardrop like we normally do, pinching that end. And then to make the little kick in the end, we just bend it ever so slightly round. So we've got that kind of shape for our ghost body. And what we're going to do is the same shape for the head, but we're just going to use a half strip, not a whole strip. Releasing it onto the quilling board. Sealing the end. And then again another teardrop by pinching the end. And then doing that little curve on the top. So you can go whichever side you want to make that. Depends how you feel about your ghost. And that's his little head. Finally, time to do the arms. So this time we're going with quarter strips, so halving it again. So these will be a lot tighter than our half. And these are just teardrop shapes, no special twists or anything that I've used on it. But you could do. It'd be harder on the quarter strips, so they're a little bit less malleable. You can't move them around as much. So loose coil. Sealing it. And then squeezing it for our teardrop shape. That's one arm. And then that's our second arm. And we can glue that onto the paper. What you could do with any of these, if you wanted to add eyes and things, if you've got like googly eyes, you can get them and put them on to change it. I'm just doing the basic shapes for this time. But yeah, if you want to give them a bit of a feature with some eyes, you can get some self stuck eyes and googly eyes and add them on, or you can draw eyes on paper and stick them on. It's entirely your decision. But there are ways of changing it and making it how you want it to. Ooh. His arm does not want to stay with him. I tell you, the quarters are a lot more fiddly to stick and mould. Yeah, there we go. That's our little ghost. So all that's left now is for our little pumpkin. So these are all halves from what I remember. Yeah, I've got my orange. And the stalk, it's entirely up to you what you use. I'm going to use a tiny bit of black from the strips I've already got that I've used for the wings and the tail of the cat, just to avoid me wasting strips. What I always do with these little bits that are left afterwards, I do tend to I keep them in a box so that I've got them if I need an odd end here or there. And it just helps me keep it, not waste paper. So, half strips for our pumpkin. I've just twisted that, so I have to undo that. Sometimes it can be really fiddly. I'm just going to make the other half at the same time, just so I've got it all prepared. So, for our pumpkin, we're going to start off with this middle piece, which is kind of a bit of a leafy shape, but I will show you. So, usual thing, to make our loose coil first. Ooh. What you'll find also is different colour papers have a different level of spring to them as well. I think it's to do with the pigmentation that's put into the paper. So seal our loose coil. Maybe it's had too much glue on there. And then we're kind of going to do what we do on a teardrop, but at both ends. So the actual coil bit is in the middle, but don't squeeze it too harshly. You still want that kind of shape. That's our middle piece. Now for this one, we've got to make the two side pieces, which are more of a kind of arch, and they'll fit into that shape. So again, back to our loose coil. This time you're kind of making a similar shape to what you were, but you're pushing it down, so you're arching it like that. It's almost like the cat head shape, but thinner. You can kind of test it out with how it'll fit. It's not going to be perfect, but it will fit quite nicely. And you have to do the same for the other side. Sorry, I'm coughing. If you're having trouble keeping your loose coils a similar size, you can make all the coils first before you move the shape. It can make it easier to measure up how you're going to do it. But yeah, like I said before, kind of doing like the cat head shape, but we're doing it a lot longer and thinner, so it's almost like a banana. And then that's your other side. And stick these bits down, so we're going to always stick the middle one down first. And the sides. Make sure you glue in the right side because these have to go a certain way. You can't, it's a certain shape. You can kind of push them closer on the paper or leave them loose, it's entirely up to you. And then for the stalk, honestly just cutting off a tiny amount of paper. Don't need it too big. This is where it gets fiddly, so you may want your tweezers for this bit. A little bit of glue on the edge or on the paper. And just stick it down. And it will stick. If it starts to wobble, you can always just gently place your finger on it and that will stick it down. And that is our Halloween paper quilling. So yeah, that's just 4 basic Halloween shapes for you to make. I'd love to see them. If you do have a go, please tag me on social media or wherever you share them. Yeah, that's the end of this video. So thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, it really helps me out. And thank you for sticking with me. Social media, all in the description. And yeah, happy Halloween, and I'll see you soon for another video. Goodbye.